What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Lobbing Scorchers. We are back from Portland, Oregon, and we have a jam-packed pod as we're going to be breaking down a big week for the Seattle Sounders, which saw them take a little trip down to Los Angeles that did not go very well, then head up the West Coast to Portland, where they fared a little better and took a 1-1 draw. We're going to be talking about both those games in Seattle's road trip as a whole during this episode. Hit our positives and negatives, hit our agenda check, and then dive into some of the other results and news from around Major League Soccer. Noah, how are you feeling?
It was a fun trip down to the City of Roses, Soccer City, USA. Is that the correct
I think that's
terminology
what they
that
refer
they
to
claim?
themselves as, yes.
Brian Schmetzer did challenge that claim in his post-match press conference, and I have to agree because they weren't able to get a home win, and we'll talk more about that, obviously, but I really did enjoy getting to travel with you and go to another away game. We've now done LA together and Portland. We got to expand past the West Coast, I think.
Yeah, no, it was a good Lobbing Scorchers road trip, a successful one. We collected a lot of footage and content for another little vlog / mini doc that we're going to put together in the same vein as the one that we put together for the Tacoma Defiance versus Portland Timbies in the U.S. Open Cup. So I'm excited for that to come out. And yeah, hopefully we can make it around to more of the road games from around the league, because I think we're getting some good content out of it. And, you know, Sounders Timbers, still always a spectacle. A relatively nondescript 1-1 draw in terms of the final result. But you could still feel the that same energy and history in the building, at least I thought. I don't know. There was some talk that people were saying it didn't feel like the apex of a Sounders Timbers game or whatever, but I thought it was still lit.
I mean, maybe not. Maybe it wasn't the best Sounders Timbers match to ever be played, but the reality of it is that's how some of them go. There was a lot of draws in this match week, so I had fun. They didn't lose. They took points away, so like, how could you really be that mad? The
two rivalries that people talk about as having surpassed Cascadia, Hell is Real and El Tráfico, were both also draws.
Yeah.
Hell is Real was a 1-1 draw. So a 1-1 draw in a derby game, not unheard of. Let's get into this show, Noah. But before we do that, I do have to let you all know that Lobbing Scorchers is a part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network. If you want to get the best independent Seattle soccer coverage, consider supporting us by going to sounderatheart.com/LS. What's that link?
sounderatheart.com/LS.
Scroll down to subscribe and support to get 30 days completely free. Every sign up through our link helps support and grow this show. The road to 100 Sounder at Heart subscribers is alive and well. Now it's more than ever a great time to become a member with the season in full swing. And if you're a Sounder at Heart subscriber, you also get access to the audio-only versions of our live shows right to your podcast feed. That's a huge perk.
Yeah, it is.
Sign up for Sounder at Heart, sounderatheart.com/LS. Shout out to our sponsors, Haxon Ferments, Podium Menswear, Full Pull Wines, My Data Removal. Subscribe to our YouTube, like this video if you're watching on YouTube, and follow us on Instagram and all social medias. Noah, do we have any new subs to thank this week?
We have no subs, and that really disappoints me, I have to be honest. And because it disappointed me, I wanted to read out some of our new YouTube members, because our YouTube members are our lifeblood too, and we really appreciate them. So Beckett C. and Chad Rookner, thank you so much for becoming YouTube members. You get access to all the emotes, all of our exclusive post-show shows, the show after the show. And if you want to become a YouTube member, hit that join button or scroll down, click the first link in the description, and you could join straight from there if you're on mobile. So.
And let's set a little Sounder at Heart sub goal. What are we still Waylon Francising?
We're still Waylon Francising.
All right, we're still on our Waylon Francis sub. So if by the next show we record we could get to 91, that would be great.
Yeah, it would.
But like Noah said, thank you to all our YouTube members for the support. Thank you to all our subscribers who have signed up for the support. We really love and appreciate each and every one of you, and really. The show wouldn't run without you.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't.
Much appreciated. All right, Noah. Here's how I wanted to do this. It's a two match pod with the midweek match. So it'll be a little different than our typical game review in that I think let's center the discussion around kind of both of these games instead of maybe like recapping the exact moment by moment of what happened in each of these games. Because I think when you have a midweek match and fixture congestion like this, there's a lot of debate to be had as to how you should approach it, how you should prioritize things, how you should line it up. So with coming off what was a fantastic start to the road trip with their 3-1 win at Houston, I think the question in front of Brian Schmetzer and the coaching staff was, how do you approach two-match week coming up, one Wednesday midweek and one on the weekend, lineup-wise, with the knowledge that you're playing both of the matches on short rest, and that the final match is a derby match at Portland, which obviously carries a little more significance even than your regular season game. So let's talk about how they did approach that and if we agreed with that as our lineup reaction. So I guess the first one that I wanted to talk about, Noah, was just how they lined up at LAFC, which, as we all know, famously did not pan out super well.
No.
The Sounders lost that match 4-0, which I think it wasn't as non-competitive as a 4-0, but when you get 4-0'd,
it's never a good scene.
It's never a good scene, and like it doesn't do you a lot of good to be like, well, it wasn't as bad as a 4-0. I mean, you got 4-0'd, so I don't think the intent was to punt this game or look past it to the Portland game, but it was indeed a very heavily rotated lineup. I'm just going to read out how they lined it up because I was just looking at it just now, Noah, and this is a good lineup. So you had Osaze de Rosario get his first MLS start at LAFC, flanked by Jesus Ferreira and Pedro de la Vega, which, you know, that is rotated, but those are still two of your biggest, highest paid, most high profile attackers that were out there. You did have Paul Rothrock out there, but the double pivot, this was a JP Danny Leyva double pivot match, and you had KKR out there, and then you did have Nuhu and Yamar out there, but you did have John Bell. J Bell got the start in the back, and Andy T also got the start. So I guess in general, no, I'll kick it to you.
Sure.
What were your thoughts when you saw this lineup, and how do you now that you know the result, would you have done it any differently, or do you think it was the right decision to rotate to this degree?
My first thought was awesome. We're getting a rotated lineup. This isn't a surprise. Hopefully we can make something of it, right? Like, it was an opportunity to get meaningful minutes for some guys who you want to know how they're going to do, right? Like, you want to know how John Bell is going to perform starting a match. You want to see what you have in Osaze de Rosario. You never know, right? Like, he could have popped off and done crazy. And then someone who I'm obviously continued to be excited by was Kalani Kosarianzi getting the start there. That rocked. I genuinely think that right back position might be one of the most competitive battles right now between KKR and Alex Roldan, just because they give you really different stuff, but they're both like really very solid players, which I just love to see. So this is what I expected, right? It's midweek regardless, and you're gonna have to rotate. Now, if I can say hindsight's 2020, would I have played some more people? Would I have played Moose? Yeah, probably. I probably would have started Moose. Would I have played Rusnak or earlier, or would I have, maybe gotten some other players involved to start? I don't know. It's hard to say, but I mean, regardless, I think the biggest issue that I saw when I saw this lineup was the double pivot of JP and Leyva against an LAFC team that are pretty well known for being able to play through midfields like it's a hot knife through butter.
Yeah, and I think the JP Danny Leyva double pivot. I mean, what'd you think of that? I felt like, you know, the narrative coming out of the game was that it got ran over, which I think was true in the second half. I thought in general in the first half, Seattle was hanging with it in the LAFC game. Their best chances came off set pieces. There was the Danny Leva one. He had the free kick that took a deflection, right, and it only missed. That barely missed. That was almost a goal. And then De La Vega puts one off the bar. I won't lie. When I saw the De La Vega one go off the bar, the first thought that went in my head was, that's like one of the ones in a game like this where if you really want to take a result, like, oh, you need that to go in. Like it was a good look. It was a good look. Danny Leva had a good look. I think they had another good look off a corner kick at one point, if I'm not mistaken. But it was only 1-0 at the half. Under got their first goal. But Andy T arguably could have saved that one. But like I think the thing looking back on this game is that they actually were, like, it wasn't like the San Diego game, right, where they were getting mobbed on just kind of right from kick. Mm-hmm. They were actually in this game, but that honestly made it a little more frustrating, the extent to which it got away from them in the second half. But I don't know. What did you think of
Well, I think that double pivot was quite slow for a very fast counterattacking opposition. I mean, anytime you're going against Denny Bouanga, the literal demon himself, I think the last thing that you want is a slow defensive mid, especially when he can just get into positions and blow by defenders. You need that insurance. So I thought, I mean, what are you going to do, right? Like, that is your rotated double pivot. Christian Roldan cannot play every single minute of every single game.
He wasn't even in Los Angeles.
Like he needed the break, dude. Like I'm sorry, that dude is incredible, and he deserved the rest. But it's hard. It's hard, right? That is your best second choice, you know. And I don't think Danny Leva played poorly. There were people absolutely crashing out about Danny Leva's performance, which I don't know about you, but kind of confused me because I didn't see him being as much of an issue as JP. I think JP was just really off this game and slow and looked like he hadn't played a professional match in a month. Like, that's what it felt like.
Yeah, so that's what I was kind of the conclusion that I came to about the double pivot is, like, I don't even know how much of it is to do with the quality of the double pivot and other more than, like, it looked like two guys who hadn't played competitive MLS minutes consistently in a few weeks, you know. Maybe if they'd been getting more reps lately and were more in form, what happened in the second half wouldn't have happened. But I also don't think it was solely what happened in midfield. I think anytime you have a game state like that, it probably means you're going to be that you got run on in midfield a little bit.
Sure,
I do think that is what happened. But like for me, it wasn't necessarily the L that was disappointing about this game. Games like this where you have to rotate and the schedule is crazy in MLS, they come for every team in the league. No one's really immune to it. We've been joking about how the Vancouver Whitecaps are apparently immune to it. They're not. Look at what happened to them this last match day when they've been rotating, playing a ton of games, doing this crazy CCC run, and they 0-0'd at Austin, I want to say. They 0-0'd at Austin, who's not.
And Takaoka had like a pretty incredible performance from what I heard. To kind of deny Austin too. So it wasn't just that like Vancouver were getting out of there with like a hard-earned draw. It was kind of a like Austin fans might have felt a little bit sad to not be able to get out of there with a win.
So yeah, like a result like that, it doesn't bother me just because I've seen it happen so many times. Like I know better than to get too wrapped up in that, especially when you're this rotated. But I do think the disappointing thing is that I think this 11 with all those variables notwithstanding, like you want it to at least get closer to being able to pull out like a 0-0 or at least keep it competitive. And like my criteria for like a good performance under circumstances like that is like keep it in striking range, be competitive, give yourself a chance at the result. If you end up taking like a 1-0 L or a 2-1 L or something like that, not the end of the world, but that's not what happened in this game. They let it get away from them, and getting 4-0'd is just never fun because like we got to jump on the post game live, and You know, after every L, our chat seems to be like where the crash out convention happens.
We are
at
the
times.
convention center, Lobbing Scorchers convention center for the disgruntled and unemployed is where we are.
So like for a 4-0, that's that shouldn't happen with the depth that this team has. I think Brian Schmetzer himself would probably tell you that.
I think the last person who's excited about a 4-0, even if they're rotated, is Brian Schmetzer, especially because they did this already. They beat them 5-2, 5-1, whatever it was, in Seattle, rotated, even more rotated.
Yeah, and LAFC was more rotated in that game, but that's kind of what the funny thing is like both of the games against LAFC this year, it's just been lineups, like especially the first one for both teams. It's like, okay, well, whatever the result is, it's not really like the first choice of those two teams playing each other. And in this one, I mean, I'm just reading out the Seattle lineup. That lineup, you get these like MLS lineups a few times every season in situations like this, and there's good novelty to it. But this was a pretty wild one.
Yeah, I wanted to hit before we move on because I know we have a real match to get to. People were really getting on Andrew Thomas and John Bell, myself included. I think John Bell probably had a career worst match there. He was just getting diced up. And Andrew Thomas for sure had a career bad match. But it's kind of one of those things, right? Like sometimes everything just kind of goes wrong. And like I really do think that that's kind of what happened with this match. It was rotated. It was a gamble already, and I think players just kind of should just kind of hit the fan and fell apart a little bit. Maybe we can do like quick positives and negatives for this game. But like I wanted to hit like the negative was I think there were a lot of individually terrible performances, that's just unlucky. Like I think to have that many players have that bad of a game, that's unlucky. Maybe it's coaching, maybe it's the game plan, but I really do think that was just like you're kind of throwing you're throwing together whatever's in the fridge and hoping that it tastes good, and well, the milk happened to be expired. You know what I mean? So that's the negative. And then my positive was we did see a Stu Hawks. Was that technically his debut? Yeah, professional debut, MLS debut. And that rocks. So shout out to Stu Hawks.
Free Stu Hawks. Keep playing him.
Keep playing him, dude. I want to see him in more than 10 minutes of a game. But that was my positives and negatives from that game.
Yeah, that's a good positive. Congratulations to Stu Hawks.
Free him.
Yeah, free Stu Hawks. I don't think there's a heck of a lot of positives from the LAFC game, but I would shout out KKR.
Oh, dude.
And
he's my player of the match for there.
I thought Rothrock was doing his thing in the first half. I thought the danger that Seattle did have in that game, to my memory, was mostly attributable to Paul Rothrock. But overall, I mean, it's one that you just throw in the bin. But like it was, I won't lie, like it was disappointing to see the depth lineup get 4-0'd, get run on like that because. Part of the idea with this roster build, I think, with focusing on depth was to avoid situations like that, to be able to stay competitive and stay afloat in situations where other MLS clubs might have a hard time. But with the depth that this team had, I was at least hopeful. When I saw the starting 11 for LAFC, I was interested. I was like, all right, let's see what they can do. I think there was a lot of like Osaze. I was happy to see him get the start, and I think at the end of the day, man, as hard as it might be to accept, like they had to run a lineup like that. You can argue maybe they should have rotated a little less, like maybe you start Moose, but like you really have to be looking at that Portland game too. You have to. You can't just empty the tank in every single game. So
and I think maybe it would have been less rotated had they not gotten the 3 in Houston. But it's like you get the 3 in Houston, you afford yourself a little bit of a because obviously no coach is planning to drop points. That's never what any coach wants to do. But you do have to make the calculation of like, okay, we secured 3 points on the road. That's a very good result regardless of where you're playing. We're gonna go now to our midweek match, which is also away, and then have to travel again during the weekend to our rivalry game and just a game where the result is probably going to matter a lot more. You kind of assume that because LAFC is going to have a rivalry game in the weekend, they're going to rotate as well. So you kind of have to make that decision. Like, okay, like we've afforded ourselves the opportunity to really like rest our players for the more important match.
So going off this discussion, let's talk about our lineup reaction now to the subsequent matchup at Portland, which I thought was going to be relatively straightforward in terms of, I think we have a decent idea of like what a first choice 11 looks like for this team. Although I do still think
I feel like it's just not.
Well, like with Ryan Kent, I think that that has added a new wrinkle to it. But there is like the one debate of who should. I think in this situation, it was straightforward as far as Ryan Kent was always going to start this game. Moose was always going to start this game. Rusnak was always going to start this game. And then beyond that, it was a fully first choice. Obed Christian double pivot. And then the Nuhu, Kim Ki-hee, Yaimar, Alex Roldan backline with Steph Fry in goal. The debate, and we were talking about this as soon as this lineup dropped, was who should start at that other winger spot. And you have three options there. So let's go over these. You have Pedro de la Vega, you have Paul Rothrock, and you have Jesus Ferreira. Honestly, if I was guessing the lineup before the game, I would have guessed De La Vega or Rothrock before Ferreira, but then the lineup comes out and it turns out Ferreira is the one in there. And I think that was an interesting one because, I mean, we've talked a lot on this show about how the Jesus Ferreira, Albert Rusnak fit hasn't clicked yet. I've been saying I don't think that means it will never click, and I do want to see them run it more, but I think the question is a derby game like this, like the biggest game of your season, is that the best option to run that to start the game, or would you have rather have seen them run De La Vega or Rothrock at that spot? And I'll give my take, which is that, and this is going to come as a shock to nobody, but I would have started Rothrock in this game. I would have. I think in terms of just his temperament and mentality, it's tailor-made for this type of game.
Yeah.
You saw that when he came on, just the edge
immediately
that
trying to fight a Timbers player, which is awesome.
Immediately mixing it up. And that's what you want. And as much as anything, regardless of anything with Ferreira's form, if Ferreira had been tearing it up all season, then it would have been a harder decision for me. But with the Rusnak Ferreira duo still feeling dicey, I thought it was a good spot for a Rothrock game. And honestly, my favorite setup, Noah, right now is the one that with Kent Rothrock flanking Rusnak. So that's where I'm coming from with it. I know that you don't feel much different because we were talking about it before kickoff, and you were already voicing your skepticism. You've been on the skeptical of Rusnak and Ferreira playing together thing. So.
Definitely seeing Ferreira at the wing, skeptical of that. Definitely, I mean, the dual 10 thing doesn't work either, but so I guess you're right. Yeah, I've been skeptical of it for sure. I hated this when this lineup came out. Obviously, everything to me made sense. You've got your standard back line. You've got your best goalkeeper in goal. You've got the best double pivot potentially in the MLS. I'm actually going to start that agenda. Best double pivot in MLS is Christian Roldan and Obed Vargas. And then Rusnak, obviously, your director. Kent, I think with the hindsight of how he played in this match, he probably was not fully fit to start this. So I think if you really did want to fit Jesus into this wrinkle, you could have played Rothrock on that other side, brought Kent on, and kind of mixed all of that up and then taken, then you could get all four of them in the mix. You get De La Vega, Kent, Rothrock, all of that, and Ferreira. But the Ferreira thing just confused me, man, because we know he's not a winger. We know he doesn't play well in that position. And frankly, I feel bad for him because he's very, very talented at playing the 10 right now, or at least he's been hot playing the 10. Dishing dimes. We know what he could do. 7 assists, dude. That's not nothing. And it just frustrated me. It felt like a letdown. And to your point, this was a Rothrock game, man. Talk about a guy who is physical and buys into games and has that bite, can turn these rivalry games into something different. And even, Brian noted it that he has that intensity. He had that that drive, and it really fell flat for me. And I very much question why in the world they did that, because I truly do think if you're looking at a depth chart of a 1-2-3, I think Jesus Ferreira is a far and away number 3 between Pedro and Rothrock. And I think Pedro and Rothrock they battle for that number 1 position week in and week out. They just bring such a different quality, right? And I really think that, to illustrate for me why this Ferreira experiment on the wing just doesn't work, is they were the most successful, Ari. They were the most successful in this match playing direct through the middle. When have you seen a Sounders team do that recently? Like, they were playing so well directly through the middle. The one goal that they do have comes from a ball that Christian Roldan plays straight through the middle. I mean, frankly, it was one of the most beautiful balls I've ever seen in my life. But the wing play was almost ineffective until Rothrock and Georgie came on. Like, completely ineffective. It did not happen. I mean, Ryan Kent was gassed, and that's something I want to hear your takes on, about the Ryan Kent wrinkle into all of this.
Well, yeah, before we do Ryan Kent takes, I would say 2 things on the Ferreira thing. And I'm just theorizing, but when I see a decision like this that maybe doesn't make total sense to me at first glance, I try and remember, the coaching staff, they're at training, they're seeing what training looks like, and I'm not. So I think that it's possible that I think to run that lineup in a game like this, I don't think they would do that if they didn't like what they were seeing from it when they trained it. So that doesn't mean it's going to work. That could be part of the logic behind the decision. And also,
to your point too, that you can't not try and get him involved.
Right.
Like, you keep saying this point, and I agree with it. It's like, you have too good of an asset to not try and figure it out.
And you shouldn't give up on it just because it doesn't look super hot at first. Like,
right.
Sometimes these things take longer than we would like. I think it's safe to say. Right, exactly. So, like, and you can't improve on it unless you run it. I think the question is more like, should you have run it in like a game that's this big? And then I also was thinking there could be an element of it of like a vote of confidence. Like, if he's been training well and he's had a good attitude, which by all accounts, both those things are true. Maybe there was a little bit, I don't think this was like fully it, but maybe there was an undertone of like, all right, we're going to trust you right here. Like, it hasn't been like super, like consistent all season. And this lineup in particular hasn't looked super electric, super great when we have tried to run it in games in the past. But we like what you've been doing. We trust you. We're going to give you a chance in a big game like this to show what you can do and really have like a breakout performance. Maybe that's what he was getting at. I don't know if there's anything to that. Again, that's just me theorizing. But
I like that theory.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's talk about how it actually ran, because I agree with you. It's not like the wing play was super effective in the first half, like on its own. But I thought the performance offensively in the first half was They were up for the derby. They got a goal out of it, and I thought the game plan was sound. Like, Portland was obviously always going to be coming out playing with their hair on fire and trying to jump on top of Seattle early in the game. And when you're in that situation as the away team, you're going to have to absorb pressure. There are probably going to be some nervy moments, and there were. But you're also going to have your opportunities going the other way.
Yeah,
you are. And I liked some of what I saw on the counter and in transition from the team in the first half. I didn't think the ultimate chance generation wasn't super amazing, but they had some good counterattacks, and then they got the first goal of the game, which that's the most important thing. Anytime you're the road team in a derby game, like, your first task is keeping that clean sheet as long as it's possible to do so, and then scoring first if at all possible, and they did do that. So I want to credit them for that in the first half, and the offense as a whole. Ryan Kent, getting dispossessed a few times. Jesus Ferreira not looking super dangerous, but as a whole, like, they generated some good looks, they had some good counters, and they got a goal out of it. So I think those were positives. if we're doing preemptive positives and negatives.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's just tough, you know. I want Jesus Ferreira to get involved and play well, but it's just doesn't it's just not working right now, and I don't really know what to pin that on, but it was just a little bit of a head scratcher playing 71 minutes, and like, yeah, he was involved, like his passing was fine, but like he just wasn't getting involved like I would expect him to.
He didn't make those like splash plays that you hope to see from an acquisition like this.
He wasn't even making those splash plays that I've seen him make for the Sounders when he's playing at the number 10. And I don't know what it is about where he's at on the field being such a hindrance to his ability, but I mean, yeah, I think he's struggling in those positions, and with a player like Rusnak, where Ferreira has to be very, very poised and very like positional, as opposed to this, this free flowing kind of guy. But I don't think he was a hindrance by any means. I just think maybe it's fair to question like him not being as involved. Is that technically a hindrance, or are we just saying that, and did Portland just have great coverage on him?
Well, yeah,
You know
it's
what I
hard.
mean?
It's hard to say too, because rivalry games are gonna be like scrappy and gritty sometimes. Like, it would be sick to be able to go out there and dice them up like Real Madrid, like in every game like this. Not always how it goes. It's not how this one went. That has happened sometimes with this rivalry in the past. But let's talk about the goal itself, because
Yeah.
it was an awesome goal. It really was. Great work by Christian Roldan on this play. Pass of the week. I don't know if Matt Doyle has given that out yet, but that should be it. I mean, what a ball to find Moose there. Great hold up play by Moose to maintain possession there, lay it off to Rusnak, and
Bodies that man off of him, like
bodies
just shrugs him off.
and
for that
Moose
assist.
Moose was he was laying it on the line out there.
Dude,
he was getting beat up.
I can confirm, because we were in the locker room post match. His shins, they were destroyed, dude. I mean, his legs were just cleat marks, rip stains, all of that, dude. I mean, he bled for this rivalry for sure.
They would send those balls in over the top, and he would just be running at the CB, and it was like a gridiron football collision at times. So honestly, shout out to Moose for that. But then an excellent finish by Albert Rusnak. He takes that ball from Moose from the top of the area, just perfect placement. Brian Schmetzer called it a classic Albert Rusnak goal. I think he's got that fully in his bag. We've seen him do that a lot of times, and clinical. So really, nothing but positive marks for that sequence and that goal. That was a big time goal. And the great thing about scoring first in a rivalry game is that it gives you like a little more margin for error, in the sense that I don't know about you, I never had much of an expectation that they were going to shut Portland out in this game. The Timbers are a very good attacking team. They've been scoring some of the most goals of any team in MLS, and especially when they're at home, they score a lot of goals. That is just what they do, and you just have to try and damage control that as much as possible. Just the statistical odds of anyone shutting out Portland at home, it's not an easy thing to do.
Not at all.
So I think the performance, the attacking performance, was like, I would describe it as like okay, like not amazing, not terrible. It was okay. It was I think it was good enough to win the game. I think it was, but I think the defensive performance was actually quite good. If you hold Portland to 1 goal and 4 shots at home, I think that's honestly a pretty good day at the office. And it was really like, that was their only really big clear-cut chance of the game. It was the best chance that either team had, I think, pretty clearly in the game. But with the dust settled at the end of the game, to hold them to 1 goal, that's a good defensive performance. So
Yeah. Well, I have 2 questions for you, Ari.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 1 is, it's a draw, and we famously, there's draws that feel like wins and draws that feel like losses, and I guess there's also draws that feel like draws. Where do you land on this one?
I think honestly, ordinarily, it would be more closer to a draw that feels like a win than a draw that feels like a loss, because for a derby game, that's usually, I think, how you think of it as the road team. And the home team is the one that's going to feel disappointed if they can't take all 3 points. But there's a couple reasons why I don't think this quite feels like a win for Seattle, which is that, number one, they were ahead. Like, they actually put themselves in position to where they could win the game. They were ahead and then gave up the lead. But then also, I thought the last 5-10 minutes of the game, they looked like the more likely team to score. I feel like they had a lot of possession in the attacking end. They were knocking it around. De La Vega had the one good look. They had a lot of corner kicks in this game. So the opportunities were there for them to win it. So I think
they also had some other chances in the first half, like right towards halftime. Like, especially that ball that hit off the referee, that Christian Roldan played.
Yeah, Schmetz mentioned that, and I was like, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
God damn it.
Unlucky.
But then the other reason I think it's a draw, it's not a draw that feels like a win, is just because of what happened in the LAFC game. Yeah. Like, a win would have totally erased the at least my own bitter feelings over them getting 4-0'd like that, and a draw doesn't like wash that away like that. So I think with those two factors, it's really yeah, you're right. Like, usually any draw, one team comes out feeling like it's closer to a W and the other team comes out feeling like it's closer to an L. I feel like the Timbers definitely are it's going to feel like more of an L for them, both because they didn't take 3 points at home. And Phil Neville even was talking about it at his post-game presser. He said he wasn't really happy with the performance in the second half, and he felt like he literally, I mean, this is his words, not mine. He said he felt like they got a little lucky, like, to get out of there without losing the game. So they're not going to be happy with that. But Seattle really could have used like one of those psychological morale boosting wins after taking a tough L, and they didn't get that. So I think it's like it's the rare draw that just kind of feels like a straight draw.
Yeah, I'm kind of more in alignment with it feels like dropped points. It doesn't feel like a loss. Like, I don't feel heartbroken. I don't feel frustrated. I don't feel angry. But I do feel like the Sounders could have gotten out of there with more points. So maybe that is truly what a draw feels like. It's like, oh, okay. Like, that's not a bad result, but like I'm wanting more. I feel like there could have been more, and it leaves me like picking at little things, you know, of what I would have liked to see better, but not a disappointing result. I didn't leave that match upset. I didn't leave that match super happy. Game. It was a good game. It was a up and down game. It wasn't like insanely exciting. It wasn't insanely boring. It was. So yeah, maybe this is the first draw to feel like a draw to ever exist on the Lobbing Scorchers. But,
yeah, it must be.
My second question.
Oh yeah.
My second question. We talked about this a little bit, but MLS scheduling midweek games for basically everyone during a rivalry week. So most teams had to play 3 matches in 7, 8, 9 days, 10 days. How is that? That just seems ridiculous to me. It feels like it really ruined not only the LAFC game, which now we don't really have any barometer for how we were playing against LAFC. And 2, it made that Portland game like it just didn't feel like we could really give it everything.
Yeah, I just wish they hadn't done that. The LAFC thing it's honestly like, okay, LAFC slammed on Seattle midweek while Seattle was super rotated. Seattle slammed on LAFC in the exact same way earlier this season in Seattle when LAFC was super rotated. Seattle was rotated for that game too. LAFC rotated less than Seattle for this last game, but they still rotated a little bit. It's just like I don't know. I don't like a situation where you have like a big Western Conference rival that, like you said, like I use those games as a barometer for like where the Sounders stand. And I mean, the 4-0 aside, I don't think anyone can say anything one way or the other about the quality of really either of the teams because of the scheduling. So that's frustrating. And really just having a 3-match week during rivalry week, it's sort of, it feels like you're going into it like not at full strength, which you always want to be as full strength as possible for a big game like that. And it feels like they didn't get that chance. So yeah, no, that was an annoying part of the whole thing.
Yeah, I hated it. It just sucks. And I was talking to Ryan Kent in the locker room after the match, and I asked him about that specifically. I said, Ryan, like, dude, like, this is your first. This is your welcome to MLS moment, man. Like, 3 matches, you fly to Houston, right? Like, that's a fun flight. And then you fly to LA, and then you go, they probably came back home and then went straight to Portland. That's insane. That's more travel than you'd probably ever do in the entire European calendar, Ari. Scottish League, it's a 10-minute drive for your rivalry matches.
You can walk.
Yeah, dude, you can walk. It's,
You can take a Lime scooter.
Dude, yeah, e-bike. And so he said that it really did weigh on him, and he felt like he wasn't on it.
You could literally tell.
He said he wasn't happy with his performance, and he said, he was feeling that. He was feeling all of that travel and getting used to that. Like, he's still like getting used to MLS, and like that's a big thing in this league. And just even more of just like we said, we would both have been happy with 4 points coming back from this road trip. I am still very happy because when you look at it, when you zoom out at these 3 matches, win at Houston is always a good result. Always a questionable result at LA. Rotated against LA. Okay, fine. I don't love it.
It doesn't count any different in the standings than if they had lost 1-0.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
might be cope, but
no, yeah. I mean, goal differential or whatever.
Yeah,
but
it hurt the GD a little bit, but whatever.
And then you go on the road at Portland and get a draw, right? On short rest and traveling 3 games in a row. That is a brutal road trip, and 4 points out of that, I think you set yourself up pretty well. Obviously, you want 9. You're super happy with 6, but I think you'll take 4.
Yeah, and that's a good segue into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which was just the road trip as a whole. And I got my positives and negatives based around that.
I like
the
that.
3-game swing of Houston, LAFC, and Portland. And I guess let's talk about the outcome relative to our hopes and expectations that we set out beforehand, because we talked about that a lot. We were saying, obviously, with the knowledge that the 3-0-0 would be the optimum. Obviously, you want that.
Yeah.
But being realistic about how an MLS road trip usually goes, I would have been very, very happy, I think, with the 2-0-1. Obviously, I don't think there's any holes to poke in that if they'd been able to do that. And then if it was a 1-1-1, I wouldn't be thrilled about it, but I wouldn't be outraged about it either. I think 1-1-1. Nico and I were talking about it on kickoff this morning. 1-1-1 was the bare minimum. So I guess I'll ask you, because I did a thought exercise with Nico on kickoff this morning where we gave them a letter grade for the 3-game road trip, and I landed on B-, because I feel like 1-1-1. That's a B to me. Or Nico said C+, I said B-. I think in that range, C+, B-, depending on how tilted
Sounds
you
like my
are
report
about
cards.
the yeah, exactly. What is this, my college?
Yeah, what is this, my college report card?
But I think that's like a fair range to put it, because 1-1-1, that's not an A for me. I probably would have given an A to 2-0-1 given the circumstances. Sure. I think 3-0-0 would have been an obvious A. But when you break,
but if you win against LA but get bammed on against Portland, I think that becomes a B-.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
So it's so circumstantial.
There's different ways you can look at it, but my thought was like, I was grading each game individually and then kind of making a combined grade. I think the Houston game was an A or an A+. Like that was, and I realized this morning I forgot to acknowledge that they got that result like with a red card or whatever, so people are going to say that win doesn't count. Look,
I think they win that game regardless.
I think they probably win that game regardless, but also when you are put in an advantageous situation, the onus is on you to capitalize.
Also, Moose draws that red card. Like there's no
right. They draw the red card by Moose making a play.
It wasn't some gimme like a player crashed out and threw a punch. Like it was Moose playing
put the CV
the ball,
under pressure.
like
and kind of it was an earned red card. That's a good point. But either way, I give them a good grade for capitalizing on the advantageous situation. Like you still have to do that. Like it's not like they give the other team a red card and then they say, "All right, wrap it up.
You win."
Seattle was gonna win this anyway. Now that they're up a man, so we can just give them 2 goals and 3 points in the standings." No, like you have to go out. You have to be professional about it. You have to execute. You got to score your goals, finish your chances. And make sure that you don't let them troll a draw in a situation where you're playing up a man for that long. So if you would have crushed them for not capitalizing on that and crashed out about how they're the worst team ever because they couldn't get a win while they were up a man, then you have to give them equal parts credit for capitalizing on it. That's just you can't have that both ways. So A plus for me in the Houston game. I don't think you can give the LAFC game anything other than an F. Like anytime you get 4-0'd,
I'm giving it a D minus.
Yeah, like whatever.
I don't know, D minus. Like you're still failing, but you turned in the assignments, you just failed them. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like you didn't not show up, you just turned in the assignments and failed them for me.
I would listen to the argument for D minus in this game, just because I do think it wasn't as non-competitive as 4-0, and also like the lineup that was out there was it was a motley crew. It was the motliest of motley crews. So, but like I think at the end of the day, if you see 4-0, that's an F. So it's interesting because you have really the two exact opposites ends of the spectrum. You have an A plus, and then an F, and then the Portland game. I was trying to think of it as independent from how I felt about what happened at LAFC. Just how do you look at a 1-1 derby draw in isolation? I think that's a B. Is that fair? I think that's a B. If you win that game, you get an A. But if you take the road point at Providence Park, I would give that a B. Maybe B minus, whatever. But as a whole, I would have given it a solid B if the LAFC game had been more competitive, but since they got 4-0'd, that's where I come in with the minus. B minus for the road trip, which isn't incredible, but it's also not terrible. Noah, what grade would you give the road trip?
Well, Ari, because I'm the king of stats, I used a little grade calculator here. So if you gave them an A plus for their trip to LA, you gave them B not for their trip there, for their trip to Houston, you gave them a B for the Portland game and an F for the LA game. That would be a C plus.
Okay, so I guess I was trying to eyeball it as a B minus, but I guess I give them a C plus. That's a good official calculator. I'm gonna have to use that.
Yeah, no, I actually liked this.
Which I think B minus or C plus is fair.
It's like the same thing, dude.
It's the same
gives
thing.
A shit?
It's the same thing.
Here's my grades for it. I think the Houston game was an A. You go down to Houston, right, and you win a match that feels like it can go either way. You know, it's a hard road trip. It always is. So that's an A for me. The LAFC game to me, it's not an F. I understand that they lost 4-0. They didn't look great, but it's rotated, whatever. Like, I don't think that's I think that's like a D. Like, I think that's like a D. There was no dignity, but there's a D in dignity, and I'm giving them a D. Okay. Yeah, they came out with some sort of dignity, in my opinion. And you know what? People are not going to like that because I saw a lot of people crashing out about this game. And then the Timbers, like, I think I land probably on like a B minus. Like you technically drop a point. Actually, no. I like a B on this actually because you passed. You did it. You did the thing. You did it well. You could have gotten better.
I thought the performance was pretty good, honestly. I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't the greatest game they've ever played, but I think really it's about, like, a game like that, it's about playing well enough to win. I think it's fair to say that they did that.
Yeah, so for me, B minus is my final grade letter.
All right, so everyone's in the same relative vicinity with it. C plus, B minus road trip, which, again, like,
Sounders better get that GPA up, buddy.
It's a little. I think the grade is skewed low because of the 4.0, which is
they should have dropped that class. Sorry, they really should have dropped that class before the deadline.
The grade got skewed low because of the 4.0, but that I think that's fair. Like it should skew low for a result like that. And I think we're giving them probably more credit for the Portland draw than some people might. I think there were people crashing out about the LAFC game but there was a couple also talking about how drawing at Portland is also the single most disgraceful result that a soccer club has ever logged. Yeah. I don't quite see it that way. I think a 1-1 draw on the road in a rivalry game is acceptable.
I also think it's funny because if they would have lost in Houston, drawed in LA, or won or drawed in LA, or won or draw in Portland, everyone would be giving them high marks.
Right.
Which I just think is funny because
it's the exact same.
Because it's like you come out with the exact same number of points, you're whatever, but like obviously the vibes of it are feel better.
I'll hit my positives and negatives from the road trip as a whole. Positives. I put the 1-1-1 on a road trip this difficult isn't amazing, but not terrible. I thought the performance in the Portland game was pretty good, especially defensively. I know everyone's gonna harp on the fact that they only got the one goal and Rusnak shouldn't be a DP because he should have scored 5 by himself. Sure. Yep. But I'm factoring in the defensive performance in how I think about it. And I really think
including Rusnak's sliding challenge
to
save the game.
Yeah, that's a good shout, by the way. But again, to hold the Timbies to 1 goal and 4 shots at Providence, that's pretty impressive. That's good work. Performance in Houston was also fantastic. They got 3 goals in that game, and Ryan Kent had one of the sickest solo runs I've seen in a while. So that was a great performance. Another positive, Moose and Rusnak are both in good form. Moose gets an assist in the Portland game, goal in the Houston game. Rusnak bangs a couple goals in the Houston game and then scores a really good goal in the Portland game. So it's good to have them playing well. And then also Christian Roldan's pass and just general performance in that game and presence on the team overall. That was fantastic. Am I missing anything? I feel like
No, I think you hit it all.
About sized it up. And then for the negatives,
free Femi.
Free Femi is how he said.
Yeah.
Negatives I have, this team shouldn't get 4-0'd. Like that 11 still shouldn't have gotten 4-0'd. I know it was arguably closer than it looked on the final score line, but I looked at that 11 and it should have been more competitive than that. And then also just that the Portland game was winnable. Like you were in position to be able to win that game. You had your chances to win that game and just couldn't quite get it over the line. So I think those are the sources of frustration coming off the road trip. You got anything positives and negatives wise for the road trip?
You didn't take a bite out of the MLS record where Portland still has more wins, but that's whatever. Like that's fine. I'd like the Sounders to have more wins in the rivalry, but it is what it is. That's my negative. My positive is 4 points, and you keep rolling, and you got a game against FC Dallas this weekend, and build on that.
I think the biggest positive is this road trip is over.
Done. It's done.
These MLS road trips, they're brutal. And if you can get through it with relative dignity intact, which I do think they did, the LAFC result notwithstanding, then you can just push forward. All right, we're gonna take an ad break, and we'll be right back with our agenda check.
Whoa! You were having a little bit too much fun. You're having a tiny bit too much fun, so we got to take a pause, and you got to do an ad, okay? This is the ad right here. It's me asking you, begging you, pleading with you. Become a YouTube member, okay? It is one of the best ways to help support our channel, help us continue to do content like this, and get exclusive content along the way. We have been posting extra podcast content consistently for our YouTube members only, exclusive parts of interviews that we just, it was too much. We couldn't release them publicly. So hear us out, become a YouTube member, tons of cool emotes, tons of exclusive content, and you keep supporting this show and helping us do more fun stuff like this, like going out to Starfire and watching Open Cup games. That is it. Become a YouTube member. Link down in the description, or just click the join button down below. Back to your video.
Welcome back. Thank you for not skipping the ads. If you skip the ads, we know. Don't skip the ads.
I'm coming to your house.
You know, we still get people sometimes who are like, I do skip the ads.
Oh, big guy. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny until I literally show up at your house and knock on your door, chain you to your chair, and make you watch the ad, because like it might happen.
Don't skip the ads.
Don't skip the ads.
All right, let's get into our agenda check. Noah, I got a few written down here, and then feel free to dish on yours if you got any.
Yeah.
The first one I wanted to talk about was this. It's kind of an old one. It's like a throwback, but it's the Seattle owns LAFC owns Seattle agenda.
Yeah.
Which was one that that was a thing for a long time. It was a bogey team, LAFC, pretty much ever since the 19 playoff win. LAFC had been, for the vast majority of the time, getting the better of Seattle in these matchups. It was one-sided. It was really tilting because it was the exact same storyline as the Timbers for a lot of that same period of time too. It was like they couldn't get the better of either of their two biggest rivals in the West. The Portland one, I think, isn't as much a thing anymore. They finally broke the streak and beat them last year. This match, they didn't lose. So the Portland thing might still be a thing more than the LAFC one. But I saw some stuff to the effect of after LAFC slammed Seattle in this game, oh, well, it looks like the Sounders still can't get over the LAFC bogeyman. LAFC still owns Seattle. No, am I high out of my mind? Or did they not beat LAFC 5-2 earlier this year and in the playoffs last year? Ended their season last year. Jordan Morris's name is on the ownership paperwork for BMO Stadium after what happened in the playoffs last year. Is it not? Why are we still referencing? I get that they absolutely destroyed it to Seattle in this in this most recent game. There's no question about that if you look at the scoreboard. But we have to. What about the two results before that? What?
Listen, if you're gonna say that the 5-2 doesn't count because everyone is rotated, you can't say this one counts either. And to our point that we said earlier on this show, they're kind of both washes. Neither of these games give us any insight into the teams themselves. So what I would go and look at is the last match that the Sounders played against LAFC, the last real match where the goals counted and the result counted, Ari, because this is very important. The playoffs. What are the playoffs for, Ari? What happens if you win all of the playoff games?
I believe that's what decides the champion of the league.
Okay, so who won the game to get to the next round to potentially be a champion in MLS? In fact, the most important match of the LAFC season. Who won that game in LA?
The Seattle Sounders.
Yeah, so famously, I think that's really all that matters, that the Sounders can consistently knock
I'm not even trying to do a counter take of actually Seattle owns LAFC. I think,
it's just
I think no one owns either, or no one owns each other right now. It's actually been relatively back and forth in the last few times that they've played. So they're single ownership entities. I saw this in multiple places where I guess LAFC still got their number. Can you really have the number if you crashed out in the playoffs?
It's Jordan Morris doesn't own the club; he owns the stadium. But that said, he could get there. He could do a hostile takeover. You never know.
I just wanted to point out that narrative flying around shouldn't be allowed to fly.
That's a crazy narrative, Ari. I don't understand where people are getting that.
It was a thing. It was.
It was.
It was
back
a thing.
in the day.
But we're talking about something that was a thing as if it's still a thing. I didn't think that was a thing.
No.
Let's talk about the Ferreira and Rusnak can't play together.
One of my best agendas I've ever made, I think, potentially.
See, I don't think this game. I don't think it proved that the agenda is wrong, but I also don't think it was super strongly reinforced. I thought, again, if we're judging the offense as a whole as opposed to honing in on individual performances, I thought it ran better. All right. Maybe I'm putting too much stock in baby steps, copium, incremental progress. But they generated some good looks in the first half and got a goal. Did they not? It's not like...
To say they, you mean the Sounders, not Rusnak and Ferreira, correct?
Rusnak scored it.
Yeah, but Ferreira wasn't involved in that play.
Okay, well, like they still got a goal with the setup.
Right.
I know.
I just had to clarify. I had to clarify.
I'm admittedly, I'm reaching. I'm just saying, like, I didn't come out of this game being like, oh man, they can absolutely never run that again. Like, which there's been times where they ran that where I low key did feel like that.
Here's my argument, Ari.
Yeah.
I don't think that they should run that again. And here's why. Because you sit your talent on the bench when you put him on the field. And that's the problem. They can't play together because when you're putting Ferreira on the field in a position that he is not getting involved in, or he's not like making as much of an impact as other players normally would, like the baseline of Pedro de la Vega and the baseline of Paul Rothrock on the wing are so much higher than the baseline of Jesus Ferreira on the wing. And that's the problem, right? Maybe on paper you can play them together and it's not this crash out detrimental. They're literally like conceding goals because of it and they can't get anything going in attack. But you're taking off a better piece to put on a subpar piece when the reality is they're both just 10s and we don't have a 2-10 system and we shouldn't have a 2-10 system because neither of these players could play together in that specific position together for sure. But that's the problem, Ari, is that on the field, when Rusnak is on the field and Ferreira is on the field at the same time, there's someone spot who Ferreira is taking that is way better. And I do not think that they should or can play together. That said, start him against FC Dallas. Start him at the 10 against FC Dallas.
I see what you're saying. I do think it's interesting that the coaching staff seems to see that differently. They wouldn't have run it in this game if they didn't think that it could be successful. There's no way.
Yeah.
So,
well, Ari, I have my pro licenses on Football Manager, so I mean, I think I know a thing or two. Okay?
I'm just saying, like, I agree with a lot of what you said as far as like, even if it works okay, you're potentially sacrificing an option that could look great.
Yep.
By running it, but I think they're clearly, the fact that they ran it in this game is interesting to me because that shows that they still think that it can work. You don't run it in a Timbers game if you have questions about that. So they're clearly like gonna keep trying it, and I'm still on the train that you shouldn't fully chalk it until like later in the season than this. Like, you got to figure out ways to you got to figure out how to run all kinds of different setups with how this league goes sometimes with the injuries and the rotation and all the absences and the fixture congestion and all that. So I don't know. We're obviously going to keep keeping track of this storyline.
Does this mean that Schmetzer's anti-stats or pro-stats because he keeps playing Ferreira in these weird positions?
I mean, I don't know if what that suggests about his attitude on it one way or the other, but I think Schmetz in general is pro stats. I've heard him drop some numbers before.
Gross.
My Moose should be an MLS All-Star agenda.
It's looking hot, Ari, every single day, dude. Every day.
Strengthened again. This time he gets a hold-up assist. Phenomenal play by Moose and just another goal contribution. And if he's not an All-Star, then that's cowardly. It's cowardly, and I'm going to stay on this. As long as he keeps getting on the stat sheet like this and being the most important attacking player on the Seattle Sounders, Moose should be an MLS All-Star.
5 goals, 1 assist, Ari. You really can't ask for much more, and that brings me to my first agenda that's not necessarily my agenda, but it's an agenda that I have seen pervade across the internet in multiple ways. Daniel Musovski over Jordan Morris agenda. Whoa. Would you have ever thought...
start him when Morris is healthy.
Yeah. Would you have ever thought that Danny Musovski in the year 2025 would be getting shouts that people think he should be starting over Morris and is over Morris on the depth chart right now. That's crazy.
I'll say this: if he stays this hot and this productive, like you can't like diminish his role when Jordan gets healthy. If the offense is still playing really well and he's still banging in goals, so he has to keep up. I don't think he has to stay this hot, like a goal every single game. But if it's a situation where he's cooled down considerably, then I think that makes the decision a little bit easier. But I think at the end of the day, there's big roles for both of them on this team when they're both healthy. I think a situation where you're kind of what do you think of this? Like you're just kind of alternating it based on matchup and fitness. So one goes 60, the other goes 30. Next game, the other goes 60, the other goes 30, and you can kind of mix and match it like that. And you don't have to be that regimented about it, but really just like whoever starts, you make sure that the other one at least gets enough run to impact the game, not like just bringing Moose on for 4 minutes at the end when he can't realistically have enough time
20 minutes
to.
is basically 4 minutes in striker
I was
terms.
saying 30. Like if you bring him on in the 60th, that's plenty enough time to make an imprint in a given game, and that also has the added benefit of potentially keeping them both fresh. So like I said, you don't have to like have a set system of it of like, okay, Jordan goes 60, Moose has to go 30. Like if things are going super well with one or the other starting, and you want to leave them for longer than that, that's fine. But I think that this is one of those where it's a good problem to have, and ultimately we can debate it, but they're both going to be playing a lot. But like
Daniel Musovski starting against Atletico Madrid is going to feed families, sorry.
And it might happen. Like Jordan's supposed to be back for Club World Cup, or that's the target at least, but we don't know if that's going to happen yet.
And is he going to be 90 or even 60 fit?
Right. He's not going to be 90 fit for a long time after he does come back. So that also makes the decision a little easier. But there's no question that Moose like needs to have a big role on this team right now. He's been that good and that productive. So
yeah, I think that this is, like I said, it's crazy to even think that this is a possibility and a possible agenda in 2025. But you know what? He's shown all the haters wrong. And honestly, I have seen more than ever people actually admitting that they were wrong about him. Never in your life would you see people talk about Albert Rusnak like this, but people have done a full 360 on Daniel Musovski and have actively been admitting that they were wrong. Myself, I mean, I normally admit when I'm wrong. I'm wrong all the time. But like people on Reddit were like saying this, dude, that's crazy. People on Reddit admitting they're wrong, I think like
Moose
is the world ending?
Moose has been so good that he broke Reddit.
Yeah, like that's Moose is so good he broke Reddit agenda.
I mean, he might have. It sounds like he did.
He might have. Well, here is my next one that maybe this one will break Reddit too. Roldan and Obed are the best double pivot in Major League Soccer. That is my agenda. I don't really have any context to present it against. It's all just vibes based, but the fact that you have Christian Roldan in his absolute final form, I don't think we've ever seen him play this well in his entire career. He is a TAM player who should be a DP on legitimately any other team. I don't know how he's never been a DP. And Obed Vargas, who is the best young player in Major League Soccer. I won't hear it otherwise. That's the truth. $100 million transfer fee to Atletico Madrid this summer after he absolutely destroys them and we go on to win that game 3-2. That's going to just be how it is. And I got to say, is legitimately anyone better?
Yeah, no, I mean, if they're not number one, they're definitely up there. I want to look into this and come up with some of
this is a good under the lights segment.
Points of comparison around the league. But I'll tell you the first one that came to mind, and I don't know if they run this as a double pivot. I don't know their tactics that well. But as far as midfield duo, Jean-Jacques and Quinn Sullivan for the Philly Union, absolutely phenomenal. So I think Quinn Sullivan, they might play him more as like a winger than like a holding mid. I don't know. I have to educate myself on my Philly Union tactics.
Sure,
but like I know there are other good candidates out there that we could put him against. But there's no question that they're a top tier midfield duo in the league. And I thought that was one positive from the Portland game was Christian's performance, but just, oh man, I just love that double pivot. There were a lot of plays where Portland was trying to get off on the counter, and then Christian's just stopping those counters in their tracks. Obed has that attribute as well, and just so gifted as a facilitator and a ball progressor. So I like the agenda.
It's one that I will continue to purvey, and I don't know, just like I want to hear your notes on Christian in general being a TAM player, and is that not feel insane to you? Like, do you not feel like he could be a DP on another team?
No, he could, and I think it's we talk about this all the time, but I think it's like a benefit of having like a good winning culture and an organization that players like develop this loyalty to and love for. Like Christian, this is his only club team that he's ever played for. He's a club legend here. He's the ultimate adopted Seattleite through and through. And I think he's happy here.
Yeah.
So like could he make more money on another MLS club? Yeah, I'm sure someone would pay him a pretty penny more than the Sounders pay him. But like he obviously doesn't want to do that, so I think that's a credit.
They need to call his ass up for the USMNT. I don't understand why they're not doing it. What's up with that?
That's a good take. The haters aren't gonna like that one, but it's a good take.
I feel like they were always okay with Roldan. They were more just the Morris hate. They were like Roldan's like.
Oh
mid,
no,
but
Christian took just as much heat.
Oh my god, of course, classic. All right, here's my another agenda. I'm laying them on thick today, Ari.
Yeah,
the Seattle Sounders, a team that's good, I think,
yeah, they're good.
Can win one Club World Cup match agenda. I think that it's possible. I think anything can happen. And we've been talking about this. If any team can get hot, it's Seattle.
It's not as crazy as it might sound. I think a lot of people are going into it. Remember, we had the bloodbath quote, and I think that's how a lot of other fan bases are coping with the fact that their team didn't make it. Like they're like, oh well, they're going to play PSG, and well, they're going to get destroyed there. Yeah, maybe,
you know what my
maybe, but like individual game, anything can happen. It's nothing, not even to do with Seattle. Getting hot or being super good. It's more just like you toss the ball out there, anything can happen once it kicks off. Like you never know.
Bounce.
You never know. Yeah.
Ball bounce. Yeah.
It could be a game where they get absolutely like put under pressure the entire time and are yielding chance after chance after chance, and Atletico Madrid or Botafogo or PSG or whatever it is like just can't finish, and then Seattle gets like a bullshit penalty or a fluke goal on the other end and they win like that. Like that could happen. It's not like impossible.
Yeah, I think that it's possible. I think that there's very much. Also, I saw a video of Botafogo. There's a Botafogo player, and they were interviewing him about Club World Cup. And he was like, I'm so excited for Club World Cup. I'm so excited for our group. We get to play Atletico Madrid and PSG. And he's like, I've always dreamed of playing Atletico Madrid and PSG. And it's like, that, I'm putting that shit on my goddamn bulletin board, bro. You are owned by Olympic Lyon, dude. We know how bad your ownership is, bro. Good luck, dude. Good luck. They're gonna sell your ass before you're done with this. They're gonna send you to Marseille or wherever. They're Lyon. They're gonna send you to Lyon.
I probably would have been more surprised if he had been like, I've been dreaming of playing the Seattle Sounders.
Dude, my dream. My dream is to play against the Seattle Sounders. But I really do think that it's possible, and along these lines, I think the Sounders have a way better chance of doing anything in this tournament than Inter Miami do.
We're going to get to that.
We're going to get to that. And my final agenda, this is something that I brought up earlier on in our agenda checks this season, but I wanted to bring it back and check in. The start KKR agenda. How are we feeling on this? I think he was the man of the match in that LAFC game, which, I mean, tough
only
scenes,
means so much.
Yeah, but I think that he has been kicking ass, taking names, and I really think he is giving Alex Roldan like a run for his money. I don't think he's a starter just yet, like over Alex, but I think that he's a really great option and that he should be getting some starts.
Well, like you said, I think the competition they have at that spot right now is great. I think it has brought out the best in Alex.
I agree.
Like the uptick in his form, which Jeremy Peterman came up to us after the game, and that was one of his takeaways. Was like, God damn it! Like the right back was incredible out there. Like he was cutting everything out, just a dog on defense. So I think the competition has elevated both their games, frankly. And I like in a first choice 11. I wouldn't start KKR right now, but that is only because Alex is playing that well, I think. I really think that his form has become a good storyline in recent weeks. He's locking that spot down. But KKR, he gives you more like dynamic attacking and creative presence, I would say. But Alex is defending the last few weeks. Has he made a mistake? Like, or maybe
Not that
one?
I can think of.
Like,
Maybe. I mean, probably, but like,
it feels like he hasn't put a foot wrong for a while. So I think that's we were talking about the Jordan Moose dynamic. I think it's a positive dynamic going on right now with Alex Roldan and KKR. Iron sharpens iron.
Iron sharpens iron. Gold sharpens.
That's
gold. I don't know.
I see what you were getting at.
Yeah. That's Agenda Check, folks.
We're gonna take another ad break. We're gonna be right back with our winners and losers from around MLS from Rivalry Week.
The Seattle Sounders' brand new 2025 kit is here. Inspired by two traditional Southern Coast Salish weaving techniques, twilling and twinning. These techniques, passed down through generations, honor the resilience, deep-rooted ties, and creativity that define the cultural fabric of this region. The striking deep blue jersey will be worn by the Sounders for the next 2 seasons to honor the club's deep connection with the Puget Sound and shared responsibility as stewards of the greater Salish Sea watershed. Backing up that commitment, the Seattle Sounders will donate up to $50,000 to benefit community charities around the Puget Sound region. To get your very own Salish Sea kit, visit lobbingscorchers.com/kit. That's lobbingscorchers.com/KIT.
Welcome back from our ads that you absolutely did not skip. Noah, let's bop around the league a little bit here. I got my winners and losers, and then I figure we can just riff on these teams and results. Winners section. I put the Chicago Fire in there. 4-1 over Charlotte FC, which we're going to talk about Charlotte FC. But I want to give the Fire a little bit of credit. We had our fun a couple weeks ago with their 7-2 and the Berhalter presser and everything. And it kind of, after that game, it kind of felt like, oh man, like they looked okay, like a little bit better than they usually are to start the season. Berhalter is doing a pretty good job. And then we were like, oh man, it's still the Chicago Fire, a 7-2. How much progress did they really make? That was a good win for them. That was on the road. It's a Charlotte team that's reeling right now, but like credit to Berhalter, credit to the Fire. They actually seemed to have got their heads on straight after that match, and that was a big win. I got Toronto FC, Canadian Classique, 6-1 on CF Montreal, who are the worst team in the league this side of the LA Galaxy. But like that's still a big. Anytime you drop 6, that's a good day.
I'm gonna say I think they're
Bernadeschi,
worse.
2 goals, 2 assists.
Yeah, I think they're worse than the Galaxy. Like I truly do.
Like
I think.
They should have there should be a derby match for.
Oh
that.
God, the spoon match. They should play a final match to determine who really wins.
Yeah,
the
it's
spoon.
not based on point total. It's like you have them battle it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and the winner of that game actually gets the spoon because it's who wants it less.
And then I got Orlando City SC, one of the most impressive teams in the league right now, at least over the last few weeks. They are blazing hot. They absolutely destroyed Inter Miami.
Oh, yeah.
Which we're going to talk about that on the losers side. But you have to give credit to Orlando and Oscar Pereira for just how ruthless that performance was and really just how they've looked over the last few weeks. They look like a real they look like a real thing. They look like a real thing in the East there.
They haven't lost in.
Yeah, they don't really.
Wow,
they
that's
don't,
crazy. They haven't.
They don't.
They
lose.
haven't lost since the beginning of March.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
They don't lose. They had a period a couple weeks ago where they had 3 0-0s in a row, I think, which was sick.
Yeah.
But pretty much since then, they've been one of the most explosive attacks in the league. I think Martin Ojeda is. I was talking to Jackson Feltz about MVP candidates, and I didn't even mention him. But I think he's up there. Muriel is just a really good striker. An Oscar Pereira team is always going to be defensively disciplined and well organized. So
FC Dallas legend.
Nico and I were talking about this, but like every year we think it's going to be the Orlando year, and this year it looks like it actually might be. But let's move on to the losers section.
What you're really here for.
This is what's always more fun. The victim of that Orlando City SC performance, Inter Miami. Noah, we were listening to the radio broadcast of this game on the drive back up from Portland, which was actually a lot of fun. Like, I haven't listened to a lot of soccer on the radio in my life, but just like sitting there audio only, and then someone scores a goal, and we were rooting for it.
Yeah, we
Orlando.
were rooting. Yeah,
I think did we do the Oscar Pereira? We were chanting that driving up I-5 after Orlando City scored. So that was fun. But also this Inter Miami thing is becoming increasingly a storyline, not just for them, but just around the league, because I think they were thought of as like it was just baked in that they were going to be as dominant as they were this year. And it'd be one thing for them to not be that dominant. They set the points record,
sure,
and they were tearing through the league. But they look bad right now, Noah. Like like it's not like they're playing good competitive soccer and having bounces go against them, or it's like fluke results or anything like that. They're getting like slammed on. They got slammed on by Minnesota. They got slammed on by Orlando. And I think the most disconcerting thing for them has got to be just the morale of Lionel Messi. He seems really unhappy. He was crashing out about the refs.
That was so good.
He was crashing out about the refs on like a very benign, not that controversial call.
No.
Like he was saying MLS needs to do something about their refereeing. Like this isn't good enough or whatever, which that's nothing new. You hear players and coaches say that all the time when they're talking about a controversial call, but the call is at least usually mildly controversial. I didn't think that call on the back pass was that controversial at all. And also it's just a sign, like when you're becoming the ref guy, that is a sign. That's a sign that things are not going well outside of whatever the call might have been. And Messi's the ref guy right now.
Yeah.
He's the ref guy. I also saw a stat that it was the first time a club with Lionel Messi on it has lost by 3 or more goals at home, which is at home. They're at home in a rivalry game against Orlando, and they got 3-0 with Messi out there, with everyone out there. It just seems like it's becoming kind of a mess. Mascherano, does he know what he's doing?
No.
Doesn't seem like it. I'm not here to say one way or the other, but
I am.
Maybe it was a not good call to give the head coaching job to Messi's friend, who was a great player, but had only had coaching experience coaching youth national teams. Putting him as an MLS coach, which there's famously a lot of stuff that goes with that just as a normal head coach, you might not be ready to deal with unless you have experience with it or at least know about it and are prepared for it. I don't think that's working out so far. That's probably part of the reason why their team is experiencing this downturn. But what do you make of the what looks like an impending downfall for what was supposed to be a dynasty?
Well, I think the problem here is twofold. First off, I want to say we called this. When they fired the initial coach, which they hired, or was a GM, whatever it was, when he
the sporting director replaced him with the guy with the academy guy. Maybe that wasn't a good call.
We made a whole video talking about how this is sus. This is a downturn in vibes. This is sus. This is gonna come back to bite them. When you give Messi too much power, it's gonna come back to bite you.
We did say that.
We literally have been calling this, and we waited, and we reaped, and we're reaping, and we're sowing. Okay, Inter Miami are the same team that they've always been. a great attacking force with no defense, with a defense that doesn't exist.
But now they're not even scoring.
And that's what I'm going to get to is what happened was Miami was playing the Barca boys for like 60, 70 minutes at a time, maxing out their performance, and then getting on these really talented young guys, getting on Bob Taylor, getting on Campana, and these pieces. They had a lot of pieces to where they could really minutes reserve their 900-year-old aging superstars. Well, I think what's happening, Ari, and it's pretty obvious, Messi can't go 90, man. Busquets can't go 90. Alba can't go 90. Suarez
Because they're
can't go 90
years old.
Yeah. And it's an added detriment to the team. I think MLS teams have figured out how to play against Messi a little bit better as well. You've gotten a 2 seasons under your belt of what to do. Absolutely, he's still the best player in the world, but I think he's getting older. They're all losing a step a little bit, and you don't do yourself any favors when you just don't have you. Also, their goalkeeper's terrible. We have to talk about this. One of the goals that Orlando scored was literally at the goalkeeper's hands, and he just decided to let it roll
Drake
in.
Cal?
I don't know.
I thought Drake Cal was good. I don't know. Maybe
Oscar Usardi is legitimately 38 years old. Like, they saw Brad Guzan beat them, own them, went out and signed into their own Brad Guzan. And it's just not working out for them. But I am so here for this downfall. And I want to bring this up to you, Ari, because this isn't the brigade is not ready to have this conversation. But Leo Messi, 2 assists, 5 goals. How many assists and goals does Albert Rusnak have?
That would be 6 and 3.
Interesting.
Food for thought.
I guess Messi isn't a DP. I guess Messi shouldn't be a DP.
I didn't say it. He said it.
I'm just saying, when you are getting outplayed,
I have an agenda. I think we might have talked about this agenda, but I really like it. The Inter Miami downfall coincides with the trade of Bob T.
Yes, yeah. We talked about this in the car.
This is about to be the curse of Bob T, man. You don't trade Bob T.
You don't trade Bob T, dude. We tried to tell you how good this guy was.
When you have Bob T on your roster, you keep Bob T.
They had the most electric striker in the world, and they got rid of him.
Bob T.
Yeah.
I just... in all seriousness, though, I think there is something to what you were saying of like, they got all these elite prospects, but those are prospects. It's projection, and they've had a crazy hit rate. They sold Diego Gomez on, but I feel I don't know. I haven't watched every single one of their games, but Segovia and Allende looked so good to start the season. I feel like with them not playing this well, that must not be going as hot. I can't say that for sure, but like they would be taking better results and playing better if those guys had hit like some of the other young guys they had brought in. But guys like Bob T and Campana were fantastic depth pieces to be able to lean on when you needed guys to soak up minutes when the Barca boys needed to rest. I guess part of what happened might just be that they don't have depth like that right now to be able to withstand the fact that all their best players have a combined age of 48.6. So it's tough, man. It's tough. But like you said, from the outside, it's funny.
Yeah. Well, my question is, like, why are they not starting Allende over Suarez? Allende scored 2 in the midweek match against San Jose. Also, Messi played 2 90s. Messi played 90 midweek in San Jose, I believe, and then played 90 this weekend.
And see, this could be...
That's insane.
This is all theorizing and speculation, but stuff like that, I feel like, could be where the having the coach be one of the best friends of your superstar, it could just be a risky dynamic fundamentally, because...
He also played 90 the game before that, too. So he's played 3 consecutive 90s.
Like, you really think that if Messi goes to Mascherano and is like, hey, man, like, no, I'm good to go. Play me the full 90 again. Like, sometimes you got to save guys from yourself. If it's from themselves, like, if it's Tata actually had the like standing,
dude,
to be able to say, yeah. Well, but he also just had like sometimes you have to make a hard call like that.
That's why Messi had him removed.
Yeah, and you have to be able to tell Messi, like, look, man, like, you can't go a full 90 in this game. I think it kind of seems like to me that Messi just playing every minute of every game, that could be something where Mascherano like can't say no to him because they're boys. Like, and part of why Messi wanted him as the coach is because he knows he could be like,
He's got some
look,
dirt
when
on him.
when I want to make sure that I can play whenever I want, he's not going to say no to me. He's my guy. So again, I don't know that for sure. There's nothing reported on that. It's just like you kind of look at the lack of load management there. That's where my mind kind of goes. Like,
It's shocking.
The coach needs to be able to say, no, man, like we need to save the capital here.
It's just crazy because Messi, obviously, incredible talent. 3 matches in a row going 90. It's because they played a similar schedule to the Sounders, right? They played 3 games. They weren't all away, frankly, but dude played 90 for all 3 of them. Is insane. They didn't even play Albert Rusnak that many times, and Rusnak
Has better stats than Messi.
better stats than Messi, and he's younger, and I think he could probably play 90 through all of those 3, but even Brian Schmetzer has the wherewithal to be like, yeah, no, that's we're gonna make sure we keep our players healthy. Because there's no way.
And there's keeping him healthy, but there's also like when you're fatigued,
Yes.
you're not playing and producing as well.
This is another reason why I truly think they're gonna bomb out of the Club World Cup in embarrassing fashion, because they're just running their guys. They're not even trying to load manage to get up to this Club World Cup. And when it happens, it's gonna be over. It's like there's no way they're going to be able to show out to the 3 most intense games of their entire season. And I think they're each 4 days apart, right? What, are you going to run all of the guys at the same time?
And that strikes me as an issue that a coach might have when they have no experience dealing with everything that comes with MLS, the travel demands, the crazy schedules.
Or
and
just
the
like
road
if you've
trips.
ever played youth kids, like, yeah, kids can play 4 games in a week.
Yeah.
48-year-old Leo Messi, sure, maybe he can. He will tell you he can for sure. He's one of the greatest competitors in the world, but he shouldn't.
It's a good downfall. It's unexpected. We did predict that it could backfire, but I think the ultimate conclusion that I came to was that the talent is so overwhelming that it's probably going to win out and it's not going to affect them in the way that it might, just because of the level that we have seen that team play at. But to see it seemingly not working out like that, like you said, I'm always here for a good downfall. That's kind of what I'm learning about myself through covering the league more obsessively than ever, is just like a good downfall. I'm kind of a sicko for it. I consume all the content of the teams that are spiraling, which brings me to our next loser from this match day, which I have both LAFC and the LA Galaxy. Noah, this El Tráfico was a lot of fun, both in terms of the game itself. We were talking about how it hasn't surpassed Cascadia. It hasn't, but I like El Tráfico. They're always good, fun games to watch, and this one was no exception. And the final result was one that I don't think. It's kind of actually similar to the Sounders Timbers draw in that I don't think it doesn't satisfy either one of the teams, which is great. The Galaxy, yeah, they get the draw. It was a dramatic, like 87th minute equalizer. Nice moment for them. Marco Royce, who we were critical of that signing. To be fair, he has been playing a lot better the last like 2-3 weeks. He's honestly. At least these last couple games, Philly and this El Tráfico, he's been one of the most in-form attackers in the league. So good for them, but they still haven't won a game. They're 0-10-4. Like a draw in itself, even if it was a relatively good performance by their standards, it doesn't do all that much for them. It does nothing for them really in the standings. And how much can it really help your morale when it's like a last-second salvage draw to move you to 0-10-4? So. Yeah. Good performance for them on the whole, especially relative to how they had been playing. But that result doesn't suit them that well. LAFC, you were playing a team that was 0-10-3 going into the game. Your biggest rival, you have them walking wounded going into the game, and you have a chance to just really, really like twist the knife, right? Like just put them down so bad. Like imagine if LAFC had just ran on them like 3 or 4-0 in that game, where the Galaxy would be at after that. They would be in a place where they signed their coach to a contract extension. But like that's not a good result for LAFC at all. They had it 2-1 in the 87th minute and then got bammed on by Marco Royce. So that's not good. So really from the Lobbing Scorchers perspective, about as good an El Trafico as I could have hoped for. I loved it.
Yeah,
fun to listen to on the drive as well. And then also neither team gets a good result.
The LA Galaxy radio commentator is probably one of my favorite people of all time, dude. Yeah. We listen to him and
we should figure out his name.
Dude, we need to figure him out, but he was so sick. He was like chirping his own players. He was like, well, that's really not good. You really don't want to do that. That's not how you play soccer and stuff like that. It was so tight. And he was shouting people out in chat.
You can't do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
No, he was, you know what I liked about him too is like, we were listening to the broadcast audio at one point, and they just go off on these tangents sometimes
about nothing.
And like we're listening to it, so we're trying to figure out what's going on the field, and they're like, the thing about the U.S. national team is that like we're.
Did you know Marco Royce played it for Borussia Dortmund?
Like, can we get what's happening? Like actually happening on the field right now. So we switched to the radio broadcast and it was great. He was, Cerrillo passes back to Yoshida and he finds McCarthy and he's going to send it long.
Oh no, they're going backwards. They had the break.
Yeah. But like I could actually tell what was happening on the field by what he was saying, which that was a novel concept.
I watched a Premier League match today, Liverpool versus Brighton. Get owned, Liverpool fans. You lost, buddy. Big L in the chat. But, other than that, they also do that. They would talk about like who had the ball, and I was like, oh my god, does Apple TV just have the worst commentators? Like
honestly, to be fair, I've like noticed that watching like especially baseball games.
Oh my god,
just which I don't know. It's kind of a slower moving, less fluid action game, but still sometimes I'm watching it. I'm like, you guys haven't talked about the game in 25 minutes. Happens in the NFL a lot too. I think it's just like a broadcaster affliction where sometimes they just get all tangential with it. Radio guys are just locked in.
I'm pro radio. Shout out to Jackson Feltz and KJR. We're pro KJR on this podcast, but always been a sports radio guy. But I think this is also part and parcel of when you rely on making former players into pundits. And then you're just like, yeah, dude, just go talk about whatever. But they have no broadcast training. Anyway, this is a total tangent. But shout out to Galaxy Broadcast Radio guy. You fucking rock, dude. We love you.
Last loser of the week, man. Noah, this might be our next coach firing.
Gotta be.
It might be. There's been like rumblings actually so I saw a rumbling. Ball watching, shout out Ball watching. Jake from Ball watching came on the show, but they relayed a report that there was major shakeups expected on the front office side, I believe, but that Olaf Melberg, I think that's his name.
Yeah,
Olaf was also reportedly the seat is hot and he's potentially going to get let go soon. Hasn't happened yet as of this recording, but it feels like it's coming, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When St. Louis City SC came to Seattle, I knew what we were in for watching that team, which is that they really are playing like some of the most cynical, negative soccer I've seen in the league in a while.
It's so bad, dude.
It's like and look, if you're in a situation, I don't really know their roster situation that well. I do know they've had a lot of injuries, and I do know that there are situations in soccer where injuries and where your roster is at might dictate having to toss some negative tactics out there sometimes. Frankly, there's times where the Sounders have had to do that. Every MLS team has had to do that in individual games here and there. Like when you could argue that their approach to that LAFC game should have been more just like muck it up and don't really even try and score and try and troll the 0-0.
2024 Sounders style.
I would rather take a 4-0 where they're at least going for it and trying to win and maybe exposing themselves defensively more than they should than I would an L where it's like 1 or 2-0 and they were trying to play troll ball the whole time
and
it doesn't work.
Because
that's the thing is that troll ball like that is usually not rewarded.
No.
It's not. Like, we saw what happened when St. Louis came to Seattle and tried to do that. The moment that you give up that first goal and you break under the pressure,
it's
over,
dude.
Yeah, like you it's all out the window.
2023 Sounders. Like,
and you have there's no recourse from that because you've been game planning to like specifically not get in a situation where you're chasing the game like that. And then once you are, it's like, it's chalked. I think that's what's been happening to St. Louis is, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's what he believes in or if he feels like his roster is necessitating it, but they're playing negative soccer and not taking results at the same time. You can't do that. Like, you're putting yourself on the block, like, if you do that. And
their top scorer has 3 goals.
Yeah, they don't score.
Don't score.
The whole goal thing is not their thing.
Goals and assists, top goals and assists, 4 combined.
And they got lit up by Minnesota this last week, 3-0 at Allianz Field. But it just seems like this is the next team that's going to be like, all right, we really got to shake this up, because you run the risk of like sacrificing fan interest when you're not only not taking results, but you're seemingly not even trying to score goals. So I think the Olaf era it's on notice, heavily on notice.
You never want to be in the conversation with CF Montreal, Atlanta United, and Sporting Kansas City, but unfortunately they're sitting in the Shield at 27th, below Sporting, just above Atlanta and CF Montreal and LA. I mean, you're in the mud. Like, you're in the mud, and there's no coming out of that. You're probably not making the playoffs unless some miracle happens. And I think that miracle has to start with getting rid of their coach. There's no way that he stays, because this system, for all of the clowning we've done on St. Louis, at least they've had some success. Like, they've been successful in the past.
Yeah, they won the West their first year.
But this is nasty. This is like,
it's nasty work.
Terrible. People complain about Schmetzer ball being boring. Go try and sit through 3 St. Louis City matches.
But see, it's like it is boring, but it's also like
it's not even good.
Well, but they're losing they're not grinding out 0-0s. That would be one thing.
Right.
That would be one thing. They're getting bammed on. They got bammed on 3-0. You can't be the defensive team and then concede 3 goals.
They're playing Inter Miami defense, but their entire goal is to play defense. So it's like, they don't have any attack. It's really a shame.
I didn't have it written down, but do you want to do a little Atlanta United shot in for it?
Yeah,
always.
I'm always here for it.
Let's do it. Another tough one for the Fighting Lager Ways. This time a 1-0 home defeat to the Philly Union, which I thought the most interesting part about this game, Noah, was the blatant lack of respect shown by the Philly Union towards Atlanta United in this game. They literally were like, we're not gonna play our starters. Like, we're gonna roll out I think they had a couple starters in there.
They had a goalkeeper who's just last name is Rick.
Yeah.
I've never, his dude's just name is Rick.
And he had an insane game, to be fair. Like that's the thing, is that
he's 19 though.
This was honestly, I watched a lot of this game. This was honestly the best Atlanta United has looked in a while. But they were playing. It was against Philly's second choice side against a 19-year-old goalkeeper who was owning them. Like, they were actually getting good looks on goal, and this kid was just swatting them all away. And then, meanwhile, the goal that Atlanta gives up, 42-year-old Brad Guzan is just charging off his line, and Charlie Brown's it. Just a really good goalkeeper error.
God, MLS goal of the week.
And and then the guy sends it in, and it's like a PK that gets awarded on video review, but a pretty stone cold handball, and then Ty Baribo slams it. So it's just like I don't know, man. I have nothing new to add to the discourse that we've been having on Atlanta in recent weeks, other than it's just like
there's more sample size.
It remains remarkable to me how you can spend that much money and have results like this. How does that happen, man?
$12 million or $20 million. Sorry. $12 million for Miguel Almiron.
22 for Latte Loth, a league record.
Guess who's doing better than him?
Albert Rusnak.
Danny Musovski.
Danny Musovski and Albert Rusnak. The duo of Albert Rusnak and Danny Musovski has outperformed the duo of $30 million Almiron and $30 million duo of Latte Loth and Almiron.
Yeah.
It just goes to show, man. Just goes to show. Money's not everything.
Money balling, sometimes it balls. Atlanta. I don't feel bad for him.
No, I love it.
No, I love it.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Shout out to Five Stripe Final.
Shout out to Five Stripe Final. I'm the number one consumer of Five Stripe Final.
Yeah, that's the Schadenfreude.
That's
final boss.
That's a bad sign for Atlanta United when I'm that locked in on Five Stripe Final.
You never want Ari to be that locked in on your team, because what will happen is either you're LA Galaxy, you win the cup and then immediately become the worst team in the league, or you're playing like the worst club in the entire
You're in
world.
the middle of a death spiral, which I'm
surprised you haven't been more locked in on Montreal. You don't speak French. That makes sense.
They're such a mysterious team to me. Yeah, like I'm on their Zoom calls and they're just popping off in French the whole time. I don't know what's going on. And then they go out there and what's their record now? Like, who has the worst record?
They have 1, 2.
They won one, yeah.
Yeah, they won one.
1-9-4. 1-9-4. And the Galaxy are 0-10-4. Whoo, boy. And the LA Galaxy's response to the situation that they're in was to come out with a statement that they have signed Greg Vanney to a contract extension. Yep. We talked about it on the post game live or on Under the Lights, so we don't need to get that far into it. But that was just kind of a funny situation for an MLS club to be in, where they won the championship and started negotiating a contract extension with their coach in the aftermath of that championship. So there was like kind of just no question as to whether he was going to get one. The negotiations had started before this season.
The deal had been done for a while, apparently.
And then they get off to the worst start of any club in MLS history, but they do the extension anyway. So right after like getting 7-0'd by the Red Bulls, they had to come out and be like, we have extended our head coach for a multi-year contract extension. We felt like we just had to keep it's just, I've never seen that. It's something that would never happen. Like
they're on the best
in global football, right?
No.
Like you would never see an extension for a coach that was 0-10-3 at the time. It just wouldn't happen. So I mean, I'm not even saying like, I think we both been on the train of like Greg Vanney is actually good at coaching soccer. Like at least track record wise, he's won a lot. He's won a couple MLS Cups.
Yeah,
built Toronto into a juggernaut there, and then. Seemed like he had brought the LA Galaxy back to perennial power, but now it's funny because he has to. I feel like he has to like do the Vanney thing of like building them again.
Yeah,
but like they just
did that. They just did that.
Anyway, little tangent at the end there, but no, I think we can call it right there.
Yep.
Another great episode as always. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Like, comment, subscribe, rate 5 stars, write reviews, tell your friends, tell your parents.
Share with Garth Lagerwey for sure.
Share with Garth Lagerwey and Chris Henderson and Greg Vanney and Will Kuntz and anything. Oh, we're working on the Portland vlog. That'll be out hopefully in the next week or two maybe.
Yep. YouTube.com/@Lobbing Scorchers if you're listening on audio.
Yeah. And watch the U.S. Open Cup doc that we did if you haven't yet, because that was fire. And this Portland one is going to be really good too. You got some good footage.
Yeah.
You got the Rusnak goal.
Did get the snack goal.
Whole snack goal. That's on our Instagram, which you should follow. And
more content to come.
The content don't stop. We'll be back at it I'll be back at it Under the Lights on Thursday evening. Post-game live, I think we should be able to fire up relatively.
Maybe we'll do it from the stadium.
We could try and do that. I forgot it was a home game, which is always a little trickier. But if we don't do one immediately post-game, we'll do it like we have been doing Sunday morning. So stay tuned for all that. We'll catch you next time. Until then, we out.
Peace.